Something happened in deep space that should not have been possible according to physics, astronomy, or anything humanity believes about the silent, frozen objects drifting through our solar system. An interstellar object known as 3IATLAS stopped behaving like a comet and started behaving like something else entirely. What scientists witnessed inside one of the most advanced observatories on Earth triggered panic, disbelief, and a level of scientific confusion that no one was prepared to explain publicly. This was not a random explosion. It was precise, controlled, and intentional. The atmosphere inside the Atacama Large Millimeter Array Control Room in northern Chile was quiet and ordinary, with the dry mountain air carrying the faint smell of overheated electronics and old coffee, while researchers monitored a routine night of calibration. Dr. Elena sat at her station staring at thermal readings while absent-mindedly stirring a cup of cold tea, with nothing suggesting history was about to split into a before and after. At that moment, 3IATLAS was still classified as an interstellar comet, a frozen traveler drifting through the solar system on a predictable path made of ancient rock and ice from another star system. At exactly 12:14 UTC, everything changed when the James Webb Space Telescope locked thermal sensors onto the geometric center of the object and recorded something impossible. In less than 3 milliseconds, the core temperature surged from -200 degrees Celsius to over 5,000 degrees, an energy spike that should have vaporized the object, yet it remained completely intact. Before anyone could process the anomaly, the Deep Space Network detected a second event, a sequence of perfectly timed energy pulses radiating from inside the object. Each pulse lasted exactly 23 seconds, exhibiting a mathematical precision that was mechanical rather than natural, while causing vibrations throughout the icy shell, as though something inside was activating layer by layer. The European Space Agency's Gaia Observatory then recorded a violent rupture beneath the surface, where 3IATLAS peeled open, with massive sections of frozen material separating from the core and drifting outward in symmetrical patterns like a discarded shell. The object then changed direction, shifting its trajectory by 4 full degrees through an energy release estimated at more than 33 billion gigajoules that no natural comet could generate or survive. Inside the control room, Elena watched the data translate into visual form as the energy patterns formed clean geometric structures hidden beneath the ice, causing her to drop her ceramic mug to the floor in shock. The theory had become real. Something intelligent had been hiding inside 3IATLAS for millions or billions of years, waiting to activate. Researchers began considering the possibility that the object was never a comet, rather a machine using a frozen outer shell as camouflage that had just turned on. The explosion released an organized electromagnetic shock wave, behaving less like chemistry and more like engineered propulsion or metric engineering capable of manipulating gravity and space-time. The object used its icy shell as fuel and began accelerating deeper into the solar system, with its activation occurring precisely after crossing the orbital boundary of the outer planets like a designated trigger point. Rhythmic fractures spreading across the remaining ice began deploying into antenna arrays through the debris cloud, suggesting the explosion was not just an engine ignition, but a broadcast sent to an unknown recipient. The moment scientists realized the explosion from 3IATLAS was not random, the entire investigation changed direction, as hidden inside the energy release was a sequence so mathematically exact that researchers stopped referring to it as noise and started calling it communication. Across monitoring stations around the world, instruments received synchronized fluctuations tied directly to the 23-second pulses, spreading through multiple frequencies at once and interacting directly with the structure of space itself without weakening over distance. Inside the Atacama control room, the calm routine vanished as screens filled with scrolling equations, while researchers argued over impossible measurements pouring in from dark matter observatories and deep space tracking facilities. Dr. Elena stood in front of a holographic projection showing the debris cloud surrounding 3IATLAS, where thousands of frozen fragments were slowly organizing themselves into a circular structure around the exposed core. The fragments rotated with precise spacing, acting like components assembling into a machine that emitted coherent microwave signals to form a massive synthetic magnetosphere surrounding the object. To manipulate matter with that level of precision required control over quantum forces, with some theorists suggesting the object was extracting energy directly from the vacuum of space through phenomena related to the Casimir effect. New readings from the James Webb Space Telescope showed thin graphene-like filaments stretching between the core and the outer debris ring, functioning like superconductors in a self-assembling power network similar to theoretical utility fog. Exactly 8 hours after the initial detonation, the Deep Space Network detected a phase shift in the signal, as the timing changed into patterns based on non-Euclidean geometry that standard computers struggled to process. Scientists recognized that the signal appeared designed for a quantum computer, making it impossible for current human technology to fully interpret the incoming data. Meanwhile, the object continued drawing energy from the vacuum of space, generating localized distortions in spacetime that caused time inside the debris cloud to move slightly slower than time on Earth. This artificial temporal dilation served as a clear sign that 3IATLAS was no longer behaving like a visiting celestial body, but was actively preparing a specific structure within our solar system. Theories spread rapidly that the object was constructing a gateway using gravitational resonance fields or leaving a quantum shadow trail embedded in spacetime that extended far beyond our planetary boundary. Suddenly, the 23-second pulses changed direction, targeting the Sun to utilize its massive gravitational lens to amplify and broadcast the signal across nearby star systems. As the object moved closer toward Mars, researchers feared that the initial detonation was merely the first phase of an operation, especially as the newly emerging core beneath the ice stopped resembling anything produced by nature. What scientists expected to find inside 3IATLAS was a damaged core of fractured rock or unstable ice, but what actually appeared forced several observatories to temporarily suspend public data access altogether. Beneath the shattered outer shell, deep space telescopes captured a crystalline framework stretching across thousands of miles, featuring sharp geometric towers connected through glowing lattice networks that pulsed with internal energy. Inside the Atacama Control Center, silence fell over the room as the reconstruction rendered a gigantic structure made from transparent crystal and superconductive material that looked completely engineered. The object continued shedding its frozen shell layer by layer, revealing that the ice had only ever been a temporary protective coating disguising a technological core. The 23-second pulses increased in intensity while synchronizing with subtle fluctuations in Earth's own ionosphere, suggesting an active interaction with the upper atmosphere of our planet. Researchers confirmed that the pulses interacted with dormant electromagnetic frequencies around Earth, effectively using the 23-second signal as a key to establish a hidden frequency relationship between the planet and the object. Simultaneously, gravitational distortions around the debris field grew stronger, creating ripples that bent light in ways associated with extreme space-time curvature. Scientists theorized that the object was generating a localized dimensional corridor using controlled gravitational harmonics aligned with higher dimensional vibration ratios found in string theory. 3IATLAS was actively tuning the surrounding fabric of spacetime in stages, with its activation sequence triggering precisely as it crossed specific planetary distance thresholds on its approach to the inner solar system. This raised the terrifying question of whether Earth had been the intended destination for this technology all along. Discussions inside government agencies and private observatories turned desperate as researchers debated whether they were witnessing an automated seed system designed to prepare star systems for integration into a galactic network. Molecular analysis of the debris cloud revealed that the shattered ice was undergoing atomic rearrangement into synthetic substrates unknown in natural cometary chemistry. The debris field was manufacturing self-replicating technological infrastructure autonomously, confirming that the initial explosion was an intentional deployment rather than destruction. With current trajectory estimates showing 3IATLAS crossing near Mars within 48 hours, long magnetic flux structures began forming between the object and the Martian magnetosphere like bridges of energy. Looking at the visualization models, Dr. Elena realized that the pulses moving through the crystalline structure functioned like a rhythmic heartbeat, signaling that the hidden machine was not merely arriving, but fully waking up. The fear inside the observatories deepened when scientists realized the signals from 3IATLAS were no longer one-directional, as new telemetry revealed that the transmissions were being answered by something located outside our solar system. Engineers monitoring the deep space network noticed faint distortions appearing between the outgoing signal waves that matched the original 23-second pulse timing perfectly, confirming that an external source had synchronized with the object. Radio telescopes in Australia, Europe, and South America verified that a secondary transmission arriving from deep space was interacting directly with the emissions from 3IATLAS, violating conventional concepts of causality by arriving before outgoing pulses had fully completed. Dr. Elena watched as the response signals formed structured wave geometries that folded into themselves through impossible angles, suggesting information existing across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Analysts noted that the interaction looked less like arbitrary communication and more like active recognition, implying that the entity on the other side of the signal fully understood the activation process. Measurements from the James Webb Space Telescope showed that the rippling distortions behind the object were stabilizing into a fixed corridor extending far beyond the boundaries of the solar system. This corridor functioned like a gravitational bridge, creating a stable pathway between 3IATLAS and its distant origin point. The object began drawing massive amounts of solar radiation into its crystalline core, converting sunlight directly into structural energy that reinforced its self-assembling framework. As it approached Mars, the magnetic flux structures connecting the object to the planet intensified, causing unexpected auroral displays across the Martian atmosphere. Scientists noted that the object was utilizing Mars as a secondary power anchor, drawing environmental stability from the planet to maintain its ongoing structural evolution. On Earth, secondary monitoring stations detected microfluctuations in global communications infrastructure, proving that the signal's planetary synchronization was expanding. The localized temporal dilation surrounding the object broadened, bending light and radio waves in ways that made precise distance tracking increasingly difficult for ground-based observatories. Governments began classifying raw space telemetry to prevent widespread public panic as the reality of an active extraterrestrial system operating inside the solar system became undeniable. The continuous 23-second pulses began carrying denser layers of embedded mathematical data, acting as an instruction set driving the physical assembly of the outer debris field into a functional array. Inside the Atacama facility, researchers realized that humanity was no longer just observing a distant phenomenon, but standing on the edge of a fundamental shift in the cosmic order. As 3IATLAS locked its position relative to the inner planets, the crystalline cathedral hidden within the core reached full structural deployment, extending glowing lattice networks that spanned thousands of kilometers into open space. The synthetic debris cloud completed its assembly, forming a perfectly rigid, concentric ring array that focused incoming vacuum energy directly into the central core. The James Webb Space Telescope recorded massive bursts of coherent gamma radiation emerging from the geometric towers, signaling that the primary systems of the machine were operating at maximum capacity. At the same time, the secondary transmission arriving from deep space intensified, matching the power output of 3IATLAS and locking the 2 points together in a stable quantum link. Earth's ionosphere experienced prolonged ionization anomalies directly tied to the pulse intervals, creating visible global atmospheric glows that could be seen without specialized equipment. Physicists analyzing the incoming quantum data stream confirmed that the instructions embedded in the signal were altering local magnetic constants surrounding the object's immediate vicinity. This localized alteration of physical laws allowed the structure to withstand gravitational stresses that would normally crush conventional materials or disperse unanchored space debris. The magnetic flux line connecting 3IATLAS to Mars stabilized into a dense plasma channel, actively transferring energy between the planetary magnetosphere and the object's power grid. Martian orbital probes recorded sudden surface magnetic spikes beneath the atmospheric connection point, suggesting that the planet was undergoing active geophysical induction from the spaceborne array. Meanwhile, the space-time corridor trailing behind the object widened, causing background starlight to refract into sharp geometric arcs around the entry point of the celestial pathway. Ground-based scientific teams realized that the object was no longer traveling along a standard orbital trajectory defined by the sun's gravity, but was holding its position using internal metric drive systems. Dr. Elena and her team calculated that the energy output from the core had surpassed the total electrical production of modern human civilization by several orders of magnitude. The geometric towers within the crystal matrix began emitting focused gravitational waves that pushed away minor surrounding space dust, clearing an absolute vacuum around the core structure. Every observational metric confirmed that the object had completed its transformation from a disguised, ice-covered interstellar traveler into a fully operational deep space station. The initial discovery phase had ended, replaced by the reality of a massive, active technological entity anchored directly at the threshold of the inner solar system. The final phase of the activation sequence began as the concentric ring array surrounding 3IATLAS aligned perfectly with the orbital plane of the inner solar system, locking its geometric axis directly toward Earth. The 23-second pulses ceased their rhythmic intervals and merged into a continuous, high-density stream of structured data that flooded every deep space tracking frequency simultaneously. Global observatories recorded a sudden drop in ambient electromagnetic noise across the solar system, as if the local space environment was being conditioned to carry the object's primary signal without interference. The space-time corridor trailing into interstellar space stabilized into a permanent gravitational lens, confirming that a continuous connection now existed between our planetary system and an unknown origin point deep within the galaxy. Inside the Atacama facility, Dr. Elena watched the visual telemetry settle into a clear, steady image of the fully transformed object, glowing brightly against the blackness of space. The crystalline cathedral stood entirely exposed, its superconductive lattice networks pulsing with a steady flow of harnessed vacuum energy and stabilized power channels. The planetary synchronization with Earth's ionosphere reached a stable baseline, establishing an ongoing frequency connection that hummed silently through the upper atmosphere of our world. Scientists around the globe recognized that humanity had officially entered a new era, moving from isolated observers of the cosmos to unwilling participants in an ancient galactic infrastructure. The machine inside 3IATLAS had completed its awakening, deployed its engineered systems, and established its broad interstellar link right before the eyes of modern science. The truth was no longer open to debate or interpretation. An advanced intelligence had placed its technology inside our solar system long ago, waiting for the precise moment to turn the key. As this incredible discovery reshapes everything we know about physics, space, and our place in the universe, the story is only just beginning. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an update as we continue to track the terrifying developments of 3IATLAS. Leave your thoughts in the comments below on what you think this machine is preparing to do next, and share this video with anyone who wants to know the real truth about deep space.